Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.
Good morning and welcome to this week's edition of The Mediator with me, your host, Brian West. Here we give you the top 8 headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. Now, as usual, give you the top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that made it first, followed by a movie clip, a skit, a trailer, or something that's going on in the community, or maybe some pictures. And then I'll give you the top 8 international headlines, developing news stories that made it. So let's waste no time, folks. Oh, yeah. Let's get to it. Story number 1. Gunshots in Austintown. A police report out of Austintown has a spotlight on local guns once again. Now, this is after gunshots were reported along Idaho Road. Now, the report was published February 8th. Now, before the airing of this show, the suspects were still at large. Now, according to the article, the gunshots were a result of an argument that was taking place in the area. That's why story number 1 made it this week. Story number 2. New firefighters in Liberty. Matt Kello, John Green, and Trevor Willoughby have all been sworn in as new firefighters in Liberty. Now, according to a report published February 12th, this will bring the department back up to full strength. Thus getting this story into the top 8. Story number 2, big headline. Story number 3, everybody loves Jim Trussell, that is. David Scolding has a report published February 11th in what appears to be a surprise decision by now Governor Mike DeWine to tap Jim Trussell as lieutenant governor. Now, what got this story in is the fact that Jim Trussell has made a name for himself in just about every Ohio major city. Now, he's served at a college in Akron. He's served as head football coach at The Ohio State University with a national title under his portfolio. And he also won 4 titles at Youngstown State, being their head coach at football, and he also served as the president later in his career at the same university, Youngstown State. Now, the question now is, how will he do in the field of politics, folks? Thus getting the story to the top 8. Story number 3, big headline. Story number 4, another house fire sparks winter safety concerns. Another house fire has made top headlines locally. Now, this is after crews responded to the 300 block of Trumbull Drive. That's in Niles. Now, what got the story in is the fact that this is the 3rd fatal fire locally this year, thus sparking safety concerns. So story number 4 made it this week. Story number 5, housing grant at the YWCA. If you did not know, the YWCA of Mahoning Valley received $70,200 for its Trumbull County operations and $112,000 to assist in Mahoning County, according to a Vindicator staff report published February 8th. Now, this is all from a state-authorized $10.6 million program for permanent supportive housing awards to help 32 nonprofits and local government agencies to offer services and housing to individuals and families experiencing homelessness, as stated in the article. That's why story number 5 made it this week. Story number 6. Local mall is on the edge. Local mall is on the edge. Dan Pompley has a report published February 12th explaining how for the second time, the Southern Park Mall has been a victim of theft. Now, according to the report, Boardman police are looking for 2 men who stole gold chains that were valued at about $10,000. A few weeks ago, one headline explained how other designer items were stolen that was worth about the same amount. Now, the report goes on further to explain other reports of theft that have been taking place at local retailers, folks. This is all while the Southern Park Mall is in transitioning to new ownership. They're in transition mode. That's why story number 6 also made it to the top 2 this week. Big headline. Story number 7 and the top 2 local headlines and developing news stories that made it this week for you to keep you informed, folks. If you don't get up this early, I do upload the show to the website on the screen, and you can check the show out on the website if you don't get up this early. Story number 7, Youngstown police officers have been putting in work. Big headline. Let's get to this top story. If Youngstown residents felt that their police department hasn't been putting in work, a report by David Skolnick published February 8th proves otherwise. The report explains how 15 Youngstown police officers have earned $50,000 in overtime. Now, the article even lists their pay in 2024. One officer worked 2,736.5 hours, thus getting the story to the top 8. The report is long and is filled with information about the current police force. If you check out the report, it even talks about how some council members would love to see the department get audited. Now, the unmet recruiting goals is what got the story in when it comes to police, and it's because departments are still understaffed when it comes to officers on the force. The story is still developing, but you can kind of understand how it almost made it to the top, because they're understaffed. Maybe that's why they're working so many hours. Big. Story number 8 and the top local headline and developing news story that made it this week for the extra, read all about it just to keep you informed. Folks, if you want to show some support, it does not take much. All you do is visit the website on the screen, buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or to sponsor a program, or you can stop at the store at 5648 Market Street in Boardman, Ohio, and come see my smiling face. Story number 8, Cleveland Clinic in Mahoning Valley is now might be coming. Well, they're talking about coming to Mahoning Valley if they haven't already. Pat Litowitz of the Mediator has a report published February 11th explaining how the Cleveland Clinic will be offering in-person appointments at 5 new sites in Trumbull and Mahoning County. Now, what got the story in is because the report goes on to explain how the majority of the medical providers involved are affiliated with the bankrupt Stewart Health. So they're basically making everybody shifting to what they say now could be some Cleveland Clinic treatment centers with former Stewart Health doctors, if that makes sense, folks. The story is still developing because the fact that Stewart Health has been closing down and has filed for bankruptcy, that's what got the story in. Well, folks, those are our top 8 local headlines developing news stories that made this week. I'll be right back with the top 8 international headlines developing news stories. So don't you go anywhere. The Mediator with me, Brian West. I'll be right back.
What does Method8Inc.com Media Center have that I need?
Small prints, event consulting, photography, business consulting, technical consulting, entertainment consulting, fundraising advice, event videography, movies, news, publishing, media, books, entertainment, acting, broadcasting, public relations, access to the visual and performing arts, ink and black ink refills, audio recording, graphic design, theater, minor computer and cell phone repair, and they're located at 5648 Market Street in Boardman, Ohio from 10 a.m. until 6 p.m. every Monday through Friday. The list goes on and on.
Method8Inc.com. Buy stuff, watch stuff, or read stuff.
Oh yeah! And yes, we are chipmunks.
Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made this week on President's Day weekend, folks. Week for this coming up, folks. President's Day. This is a holiday where you got to celebrate the job of started with Abraham Lincoln and George Washington, and this is the month where you got to celebrate the job of probably the loneliest job in the world. That's probably got to be the roughest job. Now, the field of politics, just to show you how dangerous and crazy it has become, it has seeped into just about every part of our lives. And what's scary is that what I've learned, I used to go to churches quite a bit in my when I got out of the military. I started going back to civilian, so I would always be in church, and the game of the president, politics, has gotten so bad that it's now seeping into the churches, the pulpits. The reverends are not, some of them are trying to mix salvation with politics. And what's sad is that Jesus, Yeshua, Yahweh, Yehuda, the flesh, was crucified because of some confusion between the game of politics and the fact that he was innocent. So he said, "We give to Caesar what is Caesar, give to God what is God." So now you hear people in the pulpit talking about presidents. Watching some of the videos, what's been going on. You got people, politicians are in church, and people are singing to them and singing hymns. Makes you wonder, but they are human. But the political game is scary. It's the equivalent of you have to make some serious decision that can get people killed. And biblically, the Bible is brutal, kings and queens, but it doesn't really talk about presidents. It's pretty scary. Kind of makes you wonder, can you mix politics with religion? Maybe that's why the founding fathers didn't mix it. I mean, it's scary what we live in right now. Scary. It's so scary that, as a young child, when I served in the Navy, when they politician that come to the base, they'd ask me, say, "Brian, do you want to see the president? Or go, hear him speak?" And a part of me that deep inside knew I'd been raised in church, I said, "Hell no! I ain't got no problem with the game, Maybe when he is done with his term, I'll go over his house and shake hands with him. But in that seat, I don't want to deal, but that's why I say, give to Caesar what is Caesar, give to God what is God's." I proudly served, but I don't know if I could ever deal with that game of politics. One of my Latino brothers told me, he said, "Brian, that's a dirty game." He said some of my friends, family members got killed when they got involved in politics. They on the plane, "You gonna get up this money? You gonna get up there for the love of the country?" Yeah! Throw him over the plane. Throw him off the plane. Whew. It's a brutal game, folks. And I can see why a lot of people are not a friend of Uncle Sam. I made a song about it. You can be loved, but when you're a politician, you can be loved and hated. But when you're a child of God, you have to show love even to those who are hated. You have to show love even to those who are hated. Woo! Folks, my CD will be coming out President's Day. It'll be called Showing Love Even When You Hate It. Let's waste no time, folks. Let's get to it. Story number 1. The Trump-Gaza plan makes major headlines. Speaking of politics, Trump's plan for Gaza is a top story in Reuters headlines. The report says that Syria's Shara calls the Trump-Gaza plan, that's their Syria's, I believe that's their president, Shara, and he calls the Trump-Gaza plan a serious crime bound to fail. Now, this is after Trump stated that the U.S. will take over the war-ravaged Gaza Strip and develop it economically after Palestinians are resettled elsewhere. Now, the eye-opener is the fact that he has stated that Palestinians would not have the right to return to Gaza under his proposal. This is wild, folks. This is word for word in the report. Now, the president of Syria goes on to explain how Trump's vision will fail. This story is still developing. That's story number 1. Story number 2. What is going on in the air business? Another plane crash is in top headlines, this time in USA Today. It appears that NTSB is investigating after jets collided on the airport runway, killing one person and injuring several others. Now, this is yet another strange headline causing concern after the loss of life in multiple crash reports, folks. Thus getting this story to the top 8. That's why story number 2 made it this week. Story number 3, the Elon policies and business moves don't mix. The Washington Post has a headline homing in on something confusing. If you did not know, Elon Musk's brand is a global brand. That means that Elon sells Tesla's vehicles to Russia and China, even in the midst of combat. Now, so in his appointment to lead the attack on minimizing government spending, Tesla, according to an article by Catherine Northrope and Vic Chang, has opened a mega pack battery factory in China amid an emerging trade war. If you did not know that, he opened up a $200 million battery pack plant. That's what I said. It cost about. That's how much it costs. Now, this is all in the middle of spearheading President Trump's effort to radically reshape the federal government with DOGE. Folks, this story is still developing. That's story number 3 made it this week. Story number 4, the sanction list. Reuters has a headline stating that Russia feels that the U.S. sanctions will not affect oil trade with India. Now, this is all during negotiations to end the war with Ukraine while playing the sanction game to end the war. Now, the goal is to somehow get Putin to the table. Now, this one report points out how each player in this game is how they're playing their hands. Now, while this is all while the U.S. has been whipping up deals and trying to get things going out. Now, if you look deeper to the report, it seems that Putin is making moves to gain the upper hand, even in the war with you. Even if the war with Ukraine it seems like Putin is still making moves under the table. Now, the report goes on to explain how U.S. sanctions has impacted India's oil trade with Russia, with sanctions adding an element of uncertainty in the equation. So they're basically saying that Russia is still making moves even with the sanction going on, and to analyze it from a long standpoint, whatever was going on, they're saying that some of these sanctions, he's just basically taking the other route. Folks, this story is still developing. That's story number 4 made it this week. Well, folks, on our top 4 international headlines developing news stories that made it this week. I'm right back with the top 4. So don't you go anywhere. The Mediator, me, Brian West. I'm right back.
Tune in and don't forget to subscribe to Method 8 Inc. YouTube channel. You can also watch free public entertainment. And don't forget to show some support by visiting www.method8inc.com by buying something, clicking something, watching something, or just reading something. You can also sponsor a program as well. That's www.method8inc.com. Buy stuff, watch stuff, or read stuff.
Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 4 international headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. Folks, we're headed into President's Day this week, and they say it's the most lonely job, probably toughest. You got to face life-threatening situations, and it kind of makes me wonder about this the president we have now, current President Donald Trump. I had to look at some videos on YouTube. I had to research some presidents before I did this show, and I looked up some information about Donald Trump, and they said this guy's a pretty popular guy. Before he came into the White House, he was real popular before he got into politics, and even say he's so popular. Well, he's loved and hated, but they said he was so popular that there was a guy in India that has a statue, and he worshipped Trump. Burned incense at his altar, and they said he was so in love with Trump that he's so devoted to him that when Trump got sick one time, they said the guy literally fasted and died. And that's some serious stuff, I mean, Trump is everybody's concerned because Trump is talking about doing some brutal things here, cutting programs, but America is so divided when it comes to politics that I don't know if even if he were to succeed, I don't know if it will make a difference, because no matter who you put in the White House, America, I mean, there's just different vibes. Some people need certain programs. Some people have certain disabilities. Some people already have it bad as it is. Some people are already suffering, and some of these policies are just gonna probably make them suffer the most. I mean, how do you even the scales when you know that there's a part of society that is literally already it's That's what you got to think about. Some people who are wealthy are wondering, why do you allow wealthy people in the power? But I mean, politicians have always been, a little bit of more confidence, because they tend to have access to more resources. But some of the stuff that's going on really doesn't make sense. I mean, you could they're talking about turning the government into a business, but is that what government is for? This is what we're learning. The founding fathers put certain things in place for we the people, and we're seeing a lot of things happening, folks. I mean, this makes you wonder. Could you imagine calling the government and getting a customer service line? 1-800 number. Yes, I like to make an order. Press 1 for Social Security. Press 2 for the executive branch. Press 3 for the judicial branch. Press 4 for the legislative branch. Oh, yeah, I like to order a law for my neighborhood. Oh, yes. There are people running around robbing people, and there are reverends preaching the gospel of Donald Trump. I would like to order some rifles from the executive branch, please. There will be a secretary on line 3 to take your order. Have a nice day. God bless America. It's President's Day. Let's waste no time, folks. Let's get to it. Story number 5. Speaking of President's Day, car companies are not happy. American car companies. USA Today has a report explaining how Ford's CEO says that a 25% tariff on Canada and Mexico would blow a hole in the U.S. auto industry. This is all while Trump has talked about strengthening the U.S. auto industry, but Ford CEO Jim Farley is just one of many automotive executives screaming that high cost and chaos are brewing. Now, the article is an eye-opener and adds to a lot of gripes about how Trump's plan will hurt America's most prized business brands due to spiraling costs that may start getting out of control, folks. The CEO quotes that the auto industry is headed for a global street fight. Folks, this story is still developing. That's why story number 5 made it. Story number 6. If they can't do business with America, they probably will go elsewhere. NPR has an interesting report on how economists got free trade with China wrong. Now, this is all in the debate on what higher tariffs and a price war will do to the already struggling economy. Now, the biggest question is, will prices go up and hurt the U.S. economy? Folks, 42% of Americans believe that tariffs will help the U.S. economy. That means that the majority thinks otherwise, folks. The article hits on some touchy talking points in this what-if scenario. The article is very informative while steering the reader into what may happen if steers the reader to what may happen if the tariff and price wars go on, or if they get worse. Now, one thing is for sure, and that is just like electricity, which chooses the least path of resistance. That is, if it's basically saying, like, if they see that resistance, if they can't do business with America, they probably will go elsewhere if they're not willing to pay here, folks. The Wall Street Journal says that we're headed for an economic uncertainty. That's why story number 6 also made it to the top 2 this week. Big deal. Story number 7 and the top 2 international headlines and developing news stories that made this week for you to keep you informed, folks. If you do not get up this early, you can check out the show on the website. I do upload it on Mondays, so if you want to, after the airing on Sunday. So if you do want to check out the show on Mondays, you don't get up this early, I do upload it to the website on the screen. Story number 7: mixed reviews when it comes to Trump tax policies. Forbes has a report explaining Trump's tax policies in what the article calls one of the most significant tax overhauls in recent history. Here is the plan. the Extension of Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. That's what Trump plans to do. Elimination of income taxes on on overtime pay. So they want to eliminate income tax on overtime pay. Elimination of income tax on tips. Removal of income taxes on Social Security income. Reduction of corporate income taxes for companies that manufacture goods domestically, and the increase of the state and local tax deductions. Now, which was previously capped at about $10,000 per family under the TCJA. Now, what got the story in is because the report goes on to say that the preliminary estimates suggest the cost of this tax package could range from $5 trillion to $11 trillion, with a middle ground projecting the cost to be around $8 trillion through 2034. Now, factoring in lost revenue and increased interest on the national debt. Now, this is almost word for word in the report, which lays out the entire pros and cons of the plan. Now, they plan to fund the bill with $1 trillion to $2.5 trillion in rollbacks and $250 billion in green energy rollbacks. Folks, this story is still developing. So story number 7 also made to the top this week. Big hit. Story number 8 and the top international headline and developing news story that I made this week to keep you informed. Folks, if you want to show some support, it does not take much. All you do is visit the website on the screen, buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or to sponsor a program, or you can stop at the store at 5648 Market Street in Boardman, Ohio, and buy something from the store to support the arts and programs that I do here locally for the community. Story number 8. What's behind the idea to put tariffs on steel and aluminum? The pressure is on the Trump administration to lower prices. One CBS News report has a headline on how Trump is ordering 25% tariffs on steel and aluminum. The report goes on to explain what will be impacted. The idea is to protect U.S. manufacturers from unfair competition. The report goes on to say that consumers could end up paying more for products that use the metals, steel and aluminum, according to economists. Now, this is almost word for word in the report. Now, Trump states that his plan can help revive some key U.S. industries, which may drive some companies back to America to avoid tariffs. The report goes on to explain how the new metal tariffs will affect a total of about $50 billion in imports, which is like pinching our allies and putting more pressure on the taxpayers, who will probably get the bill according to the report. Now, because if you check out the ripple effect, this probably will cause everything to rise. Well, folks, so that's why story number 8 made it to the top this week. Well, folks, are our top 8 local and international headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. If you want to check out, if you, like I said, I'm in here every week, so if you do want to show some support, it does not take much. All you do is visit the website on the screen, buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or to sponsor a program, or you can stop at the store at 5648 Market Street. Folks, I hope you got something on today's show. I always get something on doing the research, as usual. Like, thank all the news outlets, the journalists, people on the front lines. You deserve all the credit. I'm just the media, the man in the middle, navigating your story just to keep people informed. That's 5648 Market Street in Boardman, Ohio, if you want to stop by the store and show some support. Well, folks, happy President's Day. I'll be back next week looking over 200 or more stories just to keep you informed. Thank you for tuning to the Mediator this week with me, Brian West. Peace.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.